Well, guys, I'm back. Didn't take quite long, isn't it? So I'm gonna introduce the next panel. So the next panel, so I talk about why Bitcoin. Now we're gonna talk about building on Bitcoin. It's gonna be hosted by Brutoshi from Card E.
This panel, building on Bitcoin, we have a very good combination of the builders here. We have, let me call it, come out, Ben Charbit from Dellrels, Sunny Tan, Marlene Cheng, Toby, Ordinal Bots, and Jason Lau, OKX. Cool. So this is the second day of the NFT Fest, and today we have a lot of talk on Bitcoin, and it's good to start this first panel. So let's come just do the quick introduction. Start maybe from Ben to probably tell you on your team what you're doing, especially in Bitcoin ecosystem.
Hey, good morning, everyone. My name is Benjamin. I'm the co-founder and the CEO of Delwas Entertainment, and I'm also a special counsel member of the Opal protocol. So Delwas is a Web3 studio, part of Animoca Brands, that is focusing on building the metaverse and Web3, and really focusing on bringing Web3 on Bitcoin. We did this through several products. We are the creator of the Sparks collection, Ordinals collection that we launched almost 8 months ago now, very successfully. We are behind the flagship AAA game coming to Bitcoin this year called Life Beyond, and we were one of the driving force of the Opal protocol. The Opal protocol is a syndicate right now of more than 20 projects, Magic Eden, Xverse, Alex Labs, Animoca Brands, and other companies, really trying to build an ecosystem with shared utility, shared treasury, on Bitcoin to kind of really speed the adoption of Web3 on Bitcoin.
Cool. And actually, Ben also coming from the gaming industry, right? Have many years building games. So we're going to talk about games on Bitcoin. And Sunny?
Yeah, I'm Sunny. An ecosystem manager at Merlin Chain. So Merlin Chain is, if you don't know, is a EVM Bitcoin L2 that is helping to provide or empower native assets, native Bitcoin assets, all of the assets that we have to give them utility on chain, give them that composability, and also all of the mature infrastructure that we already have on EVM, bring them to the Bitcoin ecosystem. So that's what we're doing with Merlin Chain. We've been up since February. We have around like 100 plus projects. We've been having the highest TVL, probably one of the only ones that have mainnet at the moment, and token launch. So that's all about Merlin Chain. So like if there's builders out there building on EVM and have understanding about Bitcoin, hit me up. I'll be here for a while after this panel.
Thank you, Sunny. And Toby? You have a mic on the chair, yes.
Yeah, hi. I'm Toby Lewis, a co-founder of OrdinalsBot, and we're one of the main builder companies on Ordinals, BRC20, Runes. A lot of people have used our platform to create various tokens. So some of the best known, Audi was first launched on our platform as the first BRC20, multi-billion-dollar token now. Also, we did the Runestone airdrop, which then became a dog token. So we were working on that project. We've also helped people like Ghostface Killer, French Montana, so some big rap stars. We're working with many different major projects and people like Darwise and other projects in the industry to put things on chain.
Thank you. And Jason?
Good morning. My name's Jason. I'm Chief Innovation Officer at OKX. At OKX, we're a global crypto exchange. We're also a Web3 wallet, as well as an NFT marketplace. We do a lot of stuff to make sure we make everything Web3 accessible to users around the world, including supporting projects and protocols like some of our friends out here on the panel. Great to see you guys here.
A little bit about me. I'm Protoshi. I'm the co-founder of Wiz Wallet, a Bitcoin wallet support Meta Protocol, Atomico, Brooms, and BRC20, as well as Car3, a social car. We have a booth just at the entrance. We're making this social car, make the interaction fun. So let's come to the first question. I think today, because it's an NFT conference, we might have some audience. If you live in a cave, you haven't heard about Ordinal and whatnot. Maybe we talk about why we should pay attention to Bitcoin ecosystem. Have the NFT or some launching the coins on Bitcoin. Maybe we can start with Ben.
Sure, I love this question because, of course, we get it asked all the time, and rightfully so. I like to rephrase it differently, which is why should you build anywhere else today? When you think, you can just look at the data, just look at the numbers. Bitcoin is 3 times bigger than Ethereum. It's $1.3 trillion of liquidity, of market cap. So of course, back then, we didn't have at all the infrastructure. We had the programmability, a lack of programmability, an issue with scalability, because, of course, Bitcoin was never designed for this. Bitcoin was designed to be a very secure chain. But there are a lot of developments, either the ones that we have seen already with the rise of the L2 ecosystems, or with some upcoming developments such as OPCat. We have now the capacity to bring the same type of experiences that you guys already know on the EVM world. So when you think about this now, and you have this massive green land, completely untapped, then where you can build exactly the same thing, then why should you build it anywhere else?
Yeah, 3 times market cap of the Ethereum. Yeah, it's a good point. Anyone you want to jump in and just tell the motivation?
I think I can hop in on that. That's a similar idea that we had. Is if there's only like 1% of Bitcoin, like the whole market cap it'll be far better than all of the other platforms out there already. And what that does is, like, if you're able to capture a little part of that, you'll be really good. And let's say for NFTs, right? We are used to it having been like calculated its value in ETH, or after that was in Solana. But what if you value it with Bitcoin? And so that is something our team has been working on, finding out that Bitcoin definitely has its own limitations. It was used as a eCash transferring system when it all started, when the internet just started. And so its main purpose is definitely not, the main purpose is not definitely not doing all the programmable stuff that we have. So that's why our team actually came out and do the EVM Bitcoin stuff. But I think there's definitely a lot of potential here with all of the Bitcoin out there. And it's also well distributed because how it started. It's distributed to probably everyone, even the government. And so I think that has a lot of potential for us to tap into this ecosystem. And there's no other reason that just stop you from building in Bitcoin. That's what I think.
Okay. Toby, you want to say something?
Yeah, and I think what was initially extremely attractive about Ordinals when they launched a year and a half ago, and I think really helped them take off, is the data is actually stored on Bitcoin, right? So if you're having data reference to Bitcoin, it's a much more powerful phase of the NFT market than if it's using Filecoin or Arweave or IP or even like Amazon Web Services. So you had that rather nice anecdote of the FTX NFTs that suddenly flashed up one day that these NFTs are properties of the US government, which is exactly what you don't want from an NFT. So I think like the permanence of Bitcoin and Ordinals, I think will really stand the test of time. And then it's great to see that this fungible token market opening up and on Bitcoin, and I think it will also begin to compete with a lot of the other chains.
I agree with everything here. It's just that I think right now, obviously, there's still a lot of work to be done to make sure that the broader Bitcoin ecosystem develops to where we hope it will get to. L2s, new infrastructure, new tooling. I think we're missing things like stablecoins on Bitcoin. That doesn't really quite exist yet. So there's still a lot of work to do. I think to Ben's point, like where should you be building now? I think you realistically need to make a assessment of the landscape, right? Where the users are, where the money is, where the tooling is. At OKX, I think we're doing everything we can to support all that's coming on Bitcoin. We're very excited about the second half of the year, and so yeah, I think it's there's inevitably a rocky ride to sort of ecosystem development, and we're seeing some of those pains right now.
And stable coins on Bitcoin are coming because Alex Lab is currently developing it. So again, I think we're talking about something that was launched in January 23. This is July 24, so not a long time ago, and we're already catching up extremely fast, extremely quickly. So a few more months and we'll be pretty much on par.
Yeah, I would say only less than 18 months. Yeah, 18 months is pretty short.
And just as a reminder, today the trading of NFTs is led by Bitcoin. So there's more trading of NFTs on Bitcoin than on any other ecosystem. And this is only took not even 18 months, because it's been the case already for the past, I think, 4 months now.
Yeah, totally. I want to drill down. There are a lot of good points. I want to drill down this question furthermore, probably more from the builder perspective. We mentioned the Ordinal, you kind of start everything, and the NFT trading volume is leading. But compared to other blockchain, for example, Ethereum is kind of like all the smart contract got started, have DeFi, NFT, and Solana, right? The meme coin, and so there are challenges to build on Bitcoin. So what's the case for developer to build their project on Bitcoin rather than other blockchain, which is you have a lot of the restriction and the challenges. So maybe you can talk about some of the advantage and also some of the limitation, the builder should be really aware of.
I don't think we can say that there is any advantage to build on Bitcoin from a technological standpoint. I mean, there are a lot of benefits, of course, to be on Bitcoin, and what Toby was talking about, especially with the fact that it's absolutely immutable, when you're building on Bitcoin. But the challenges are definitely greater today. So on that front, I don't think developers should come to Bitcoin to find an easier way to build or shortcuts. Now, that being said, I also think that we need to redefine a little bit what we're talking about when what is that we're calling Bitcoin. And we're talking about Bitcoin L1s, the Bitcoin L1, and we're talking about the whole Bitcoin ecosystem, because it's grown into a whole ecosystem now that, also we have to factor L2s. And then when I don't know for Merlin, but if you build on I'm more familiar with other L2s, like Bob, for instance. They're EVM, and so you can import your smart contracts from Polygon extremely fast, extremely quickly. So the challenge, if you're an Ethereum developer and you already have a product or a service and you want to migrate it to Bitcoin, and you're doing it through the proxy of an L2, is actually extremely easy today.
Okay, so you talk about the L2. And Merlin wants to.
I'll tap into that because we're on L2, EVM L2. So also, if you're an existing builder on any EVM chain, so Ethereum, Polygon, BNB chain, Arbitrum, you can actually just have the same smart contract and put it on Merlin chain and it'll run. I don't think it's like a must do. Like in the Bitcoin ecosystem, it's taking a bet. Actually, it's still taking a bet on the narrative. Like most builders would do. Like it's either for the Ethereum folks, it'll be like recently like EigenLayer AVS. Do you want to bet on that? Do you want to bet on DPIN plus AI? Do you want to bet on meme coins? We're probably doing meme coin infrastructure. I think it's taking a bet, but as a well-informed person, I think taking a bet on the Bitcoin ecosystem makes more sense when the challenge is so low when you're building on a Bitcoin layer 2, which is EVM compatible, like Merlin chain. We don't hate Ethereum, we love it because the history of its development gave us so much infrastructure to work with, so much easier to have the necessity that people are used to, whether it's, let's say for ordinals, NFTs, right? People have been experimenting with NFTs for quite some time, 3-4 years. Slicing it up, lending it, doing perp trading with it, burning it. I'm not sure if you can probably burn something on Bitcoin. There's a lot of like DeFi plays, financial plays. You can stake it. You can get stable coins out of it if you want. Use it as collateral. All of that thing were experimented by all the Ethereum OG NFT players that we love and respect. And now with a bigger value, bigger upside with the Bitcoin ordinals collection, I think with Merlin chain, with an EVM L2, we can have all of that easier to access to the Bitcoin folks. So I think that's a bigger upside for the bet, where you have the bigger market and it's the same risk, then why not just choose Bitcoin? I think that's the
so
thing.
you just defined it as a proof of concept, basically. Ethereum was just a proof of concept.
Proof of concept for Bitcoin, yeah, why not?
I totally agree with that.
So I think the partially signed Bitcoin transactions are probably a great feature of the Bitcoin network, which I think should make it attractive for builders to build user-friendly tools, right? Like I think if you're doing stuff on mainnet Ethereum, you can spend $50, $100, $200. So that's a very awful user experience for not even getting your transaction closed. In Bitcoin, with a PSBT, as a builder, you can be creating these PSBTs to allow customers to either get the transaction they were asking for, or the thing being cancelled and the money doesn't leave their wallet, which I think is quite elegant on Bitcoin, right? So that's definitely a feature that I think is better than other chains.
So I want to hear the answer from Jason, because you guys support all different blockchains. So we are kind of like sitting on Bitcoin, right? So stakeholder, but you support multiple blockchains. So this question,
we love Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin was the first that we supported over a decade ago now, and I just think there's a lot of there's still a lot of hope in what we're building, right? We're forward-looking here, right? What we're talking about is being forward-looking, and I think the reality is the infrastructure today for Bitcoin still has a way to go. The ecosystem still has a way, which is why we're here talking and why we're here building and working so hard for this. And I think for someone that's new to if it's a new builder, a new participant, it is fair to look around and kind of make those assessments on what trade-offs you want, right? That the Bitcoin user experience is, in my opinion, poorer than other chains, right? Especially if you compare to something like Solana. It is a objectively poor experience, even within our product, I think. And we're working very hard to make sure that we can improve those experiences. But again, it just takes some time. 18 months is good. We've gone a long way, but it also means we haven't had enough time to have products and protocols and things like that mature. And we need also the time to make sure that this stuff actually works, right? Like L2s are great, but it hasn't been as battle tested as, again, on a time basis as other things, right? So I think that's where, from our perspective, we're building hard on Bitcoin too, but also recognizing the overall landscape.
okay. So we mentioned it's still pretty early, so 18 months. So let's do a mid-year review of 2024. So in your opinion, what have been the biggest achievement for Bitcoin ecosystem for the first half of the year? And if you will, talk about the biggest, the flop, the spicy takes only. Ben, you want to? Oh, maybe start from Jason.
Yeah, okay. I'll just go quickly. I mean, we met in Hong Kong, right?
Yeah,
When was that?
2 months ago.
2 months ago,
Yes.
right? It feels like it's been forever, right? And the mood has changed, obviously. But you know, we had just gone through the halving at that time.
Yeah,
That was
April.
what 2.5 months ago. And it's only been 2.5 months, which is so crazy, right? We've had runes, we've had the halving. It's been a whirlwind of a first half of a year already. And to think that, you know, at the beginning of the year we felt so good, and then, you know, we got very excited, and then now you kind of see activity has come down a little bit since then. I think this is all very normal. We've seen this, and don't be disillusioned. Don't get too excited. I think part of it is, like Ben actually articulated very well, is having that long-term vision about what we're building and why we're building here. You kind of have to maintain that throughout the cycles, and you know, so I you know, first half, second half, I think we're all part of one overall trajectory here.
Yeah, and I think it was quite obvious that Runes was going to be a buy the rumor, sell the news kind of event, just because the hype was so high, right? We were living through it, and it was absolutely crazy during the 2 weeks before the halving and after the halving were without a doubt like our biggest month. We had people like ahead of the halving trying to get their collections.
Is it the all-time high from Ordinal Boss perspective? All-time high compared to usage last year. Yeah.
It was insane, right? Like it was a great moment. Like we were doing. We have this partnership with Marathon where we work on their Slipstream product and put 4 megabyte files onto Bitcoin. So we've done like 90% of the 20 biggest files on Bitcoin, and everyone in April and May were going, how do I get one of these things? How do I put them on chain? So it was really fun for us. But like at the same time, it was the hype around Runes was so big, and everyone came into it. And at the same time, we were seeing all transactions going through at 1,000 sats per VByte, 2,000 sats per VByte. So almost inevitably, nearly every single day trader lost money on like buying an early room because it was so expensive to etch these things, so expensive to mint these things.
Put that in dollar terms. How much was the transaction? Or
Could,
euro terms?
You could easily spend like $500, $1,000 on like, and plus etching a rune could be much more than that, especially the people who were doing it in the first block competing to do stuff. And obviously there's a big historical provenance in like the first 10 runes, but the competition, we know we had people working with us spending 10 Bitcoin launching a collection in that period, right? So like that's an insane amount of money and a hurdle for these creators. But I think there's a lot of historical value in that moment, but it was also always going to be overhyped to what the market could deliver.
And when you say $500, you were just meaning that was the fees at that time, but to etch those runes,
yeah,
that was way more. The first 10 runes, some projects spent $500,000 of fees.
And we definitely saw people spending 10 Bitcoin with us at that point.
I think that proves the point of having a good EVM Bitcoin L2, because it's cheaper. One transaction is like $0.3. It's not the same idea, I know, but it's definitely cheaper and also faster for that. You can right now etch a rune on Merlin chain, and it would like be on Bitcoin. So
yeah, I would argue maybe against. I mean, just for the sake of the argument, maybe that the benefit of this is also that it proves that the model also works. You know, the Bitcoin is secured because the miners are performing this very challenging computation that are expensive to perform, and that this is a true expression of capitalism that is happening on the blockchain. So lowering the fees is not necessarily a goal in itself for every use cases. It depends what we're trying to achieve. For some use cases where we want the utmost level of security, it's not about cheap fees. It's about very high level of security. And actually, the increase of the cost makes it more secure because the cost, the fees are what is again feeding the miners who are securing the network. So, I think it wasn't a bad experience, but what we learned through this and what we learned through those few months was that the myth that people didn't want to spend their Bitcoin, that was completely destroyed. We saw the rise of the fees, and we were talking about over $50 million of fees that were spent in favor of the miners overall. That shows that, and that just in fees, right? So that shows that people were actively spending their Bitcoin to buy what ends up being kind of culture on Bitcoin. So I think it was a very, very positive experimentation that happened, or something that we could, some beautiful conclusion that we can draw from what happened over the past 6 months.
Yeah, but getting back to the main question about like what we achieved, I think that's a really good point. Actually resonates with my answer is, I think the past 6 months we actually experimented, it was like a massive market research on if people are willing to spend on Bitcoin, and it also tested out with some of other products with some potential launches and like good funding from like on Bitcoin infrastructure like Babylon, with the amount of Bitcoin that went through on the Merlin chain starting program. We've seen that people are actually willing to give out or like put their Bitcoin elsewhere than their paper wallet, than their custodian, and actually put it into work. And then I think that's one of the greatest achievement, to let us know like the ceiling is actually that high, and there's actually room to grow, and it's not just all of this Bitcoin just storing there and not moving. I think that's one of the biggest achievement for this year, for the past 6 months, is that people are actually willing to spend. These whales are actually willing to put their Bitcoin to use. These users are actually generating transaction value, because there was always like feedbacks or like comments about like Bitcoin is just there, not generating transaction value, and it would die down once the miners doesn't have any additional value. So
And
I
again,
think that proves the point.
we're 3 times, like Bitcoin is 3 times bigger than Ethereum without having proper DeFi. It's just the very beginning of it. So imagine where it will go when we will have exactly the same type of value growth drivers that we have experienced on Ethereum. So I think that overall we're being a little bit, of course, Jason is right. After the past 2 months have been a little bit depressing for some people, but if you look at the data, it's not that bad. The daily trading volume on Magic Eden is still pretty high. It's just nothing comparable to what happened over the past 6 months. But it's still
I'm not saying I'm depressed. I'm just
No,
saying
I'm not talking about you.
we should be even keeled. That's all I'm saying.
No, I agree with you. But if you read crypto Twitter right now, it's people are kind of whining and complaining. But
The moment I saw Casey on Bankless podcast, I know we really kind of achieved like breaking out the little circle. So we actually like last year, we have a lot of discussion. But this kind of like at least in the Web3 ecosystem, the Bitcoin, it is a thing to stay. So that kind of break out our little circle. Of course, I do want to kind of, if you will talk about maybe some area is underperformed for the first half of the year. If you want to take, but if not, then we can move on to the next question. Somewhere can.
Underperforming?
Yeah.
Underperforming areas? Oh, there's so much.
Just pick one, but the hot take.
Yeah, so my idea here, my concept is the narrative. So ordinals as a concept went into application like last year, 2023, early 2023. It played out kind of well and then died down for like 6 months and then went back up late last year. And so that was also the time when the Merlin Chain team was building like BRC 420, so it was like hyped up. It was like skyrocketing with floor price like 1 Bitcoin. And then there were other builders like doing a lot of like good ordinal stuff, like the price was going back up. It's all price action. However, like at that time, people thought, okay, this is actually a good narrative to follow, and they started building products. And then Jason is a big product guy. He's part of an exchange. He probably understand. He would understand like how long like a product can form and actually go into, let's call it like user adoption, right? It normally takes 6 to 8 months or even up more than that. And so after the narrative starts, people start to assemble in teams, start to get funding around this year, like early this year. So the product are still not ready yet. A lot of the infrastructure are still not ready yet. We see a lot of delay of launches around this time. They're delaying into like end of July, end of August, end of September, just to make sure the product is ready. And so I think there's a lot of like infrastructure lacking, whether it's in gaining yield on Bitcoin, that was a big narrative, whether it's trading things cheaper, getting runes cheaper, getting the user experience better. And I think that those things are still lacking. We definitely see hope, like in the coming 3 months, these things would start to launch, or at least beta, start to be tested by the community. I think that would be a essential, like the key time of seeing like let's say the 60% potential of what Bitcoin ecosystem can be like. It'll be in the coming 3 months, later this year, to have all of the teams assemble and have the product ready. So that's my take.
Okay, let's move on to the next question. Since 2023, last year, the main driving force behind like Bitcoin ecosystem is the NFT and the meme coins. You know, Gordy and all this, you know, token standards, right? Do you think any emerging trend that new use case coming?
So we actually launched what was one of the first utility tokens on Bitcoin, Trio. So basically, in the Ordinals bot ecosystem, we just wanted...
It's a BRC20 token.
Yeah, it's a BRC20. We launched it. We deliberately chose a BRC20 because we wanted to launch ahead of the halving because we knew the fees were going to be crazy around that. But obviously, that's an interesting design choice because obviously there's now there's a token standard war between BRC20 and Runes, which is getting very interesting. But we just basically think the tooling, we can build BRC20 and Runes tooling and figuring out how people get a discount for paying with token, figuring out how people pay with token. So we're launching a product this month where we're ahead of Nashville where people will be able to pay with any BRC20 or any Rune, ideally. We're figuring out how you do a claim portal for your tokens investing, right? Like a lot of the infrastructure you need for a decent fungible token ecosystem that support builder projects hasn't yet been developed on Bitcoin, but like we've built a lot of the tooling, and a lot of our friends are building a lot of the tooling. So it's all getting built out so that you can then get proper utility to turbocharge builder groups. I think there's a wider crypto consensus at the moment that's very gravitating on the memes and like things with limited value, just because a lot of people got burnt, right, in previous cycles. But I think clearly you will want decent utility tokens and things that favor builders.
I would love to jump in here because I think this is probably the most important thing to me today. We obviously have to get out of the whole degen phase, which has been amazing, but we need proper utilities now, proper usage. And what OrdinalBot, with the payment platform, the payment gateway is doing is fantastic because it's also a way to, if you're an Ethereum developer, you have a product, you have a service. Right now, you're fighting on a very competitive landscape, while you have 44 million non-zero wallets on Bitcoin that are sitting with this level of liquidity, with very little experiences that they can enjoy, very little product that they can purchase. And so far, all they could engage with was very degen. But with payment gateways like this, so with this level of infrastructure, and you combine this with like your Xverse wallet, and all of a sudden you can now, as a developer, you can tap into this massive Bitcoin market and start offering your service, your product, your experiences to the Bitcoiners knowing that also Bitcoiners don't travel very well to other ecosystems, because right now the only two options they can do it is either through a centralized exchange or through bridges that are not trustless, which is of course not something that they really want to do. So, see, we're really getting to a point where if you already are an Ethereum developer or a Solana developer, you have a product, you have a service, it's the effort to be able to tap into this massive opportunity is very low. So I think if you're here in the room, you should totally talk to Toby. We'll be happy to talk about Opal as well and how we're facilitating this, because I think it's going to be a game changer.
Cool. Yeah, so we have limited time, so I have last two questions. Jason, you want to jump in?
Oh, yeah, it was just about what's coming up, right? I think, we talked about staking. I think that's coming up. Hopefully that will be something soon. At OKX, we've been preparing for that, so users in the wallet can access that when it's live. We're also, we've got a series of quest-based activity. We call it Cryptopedia, but it's like a quest-based system, really to introduce people into Bitcoin DeFi and and all the cool stuff there. So I think expect something to go on there. And also in person, we've been doing a series of what are we calling it? Ordinals World Tour or something. It's really just community-driven, really intimate events on the ground. And if you guys anyone's really welcome to go and attend. Really trying to make sure that the excitement and all the information and all the things that people are working on are being shared. And so I think we just did one in Vietnam. We're doing one in Singapore, I think, next week, and then one in Nashville. So you guys are all, if you guys are going to be there, you guys are all welcome. So yeah, I think it's, on our side, even though we're a large organization, we have a dedicated team that's just focused on all the stuff that's happening on Bitcoin.
Right, so talk about the travel. I want to cut down to the question regarding the West and the East, because how you can see the driving force have been different, both from the user base as well as the developers. And we also have very diverse background. I'm based in Hong Kong. I have Merlin, I think Singapore and US, and then Ben and then Toby, you're in Europe. Well, at the end of this month, will be, many of us will go to Bitcoin Nashville. So this kind of West and East narrative, what are those differences? First the question, and second is, like, do you see any conversion?
Yeah, so we went out to Asia and Taipei and for Taipei Blockchain Week and Sora Summit, and we were on the fence about launching a token. And the moment we'd spent a week in Asia, we just went, we're going headlong into launching a token. So I think the big...
Not only Casey went to Singapore, and then he figured out, oh, now I need to launch the token, because the Asian user, they love token.
Yeah, and I think you can... In the West, sadly, the token market has faced a bit of regulatory problems, right? Like so back in 2018, 2019, I think the tokens, there were a lot of like crypto but like the US especially has really clamped down on the token market. So people are more wary of launching a token. But the reality is, because there's this huge Asian audience that really wants tokens, wants to buy them, I think convinced us that yes, like Asia's kind of more in the future of pushing forward the fungible token model. And I think like there will be, and I think it's encouraging a lot of the ordinals community in Europe and the US to also adopt tokens, basically.
Anyone want to take the West and the East differences
Hopping on
and
top
what you
of
can...
this controversial idea, I think it's very different. You would see at different events. So one of the most iconic difference was like at Bitcoin Asia in Hong Kong. There was this Bitcoin Asia big event. It was by the Bitcoin Magazine team, actually, Bitcoin BTC Inc., I think. And then there was this Ordinals Asia, like smaller event, still great, but mostly by, I think, the Xverse team, like very Western team. And then the people that show up are
I don't think Xverse is very Western. They're based in Hong Kong.
They're kind of mixed, but they hire a lot of Western guys. I think that the main difference is I think Eastern, like the Asian projects, they are more practical. They don't have that much faith into Bitcoin. Sadly,
I would
most
object that
teams-
we have a
most teams.
very strong
think-
hate for that.
yeah,
It's very diverse though.
Yeah,
I
that-
think
for
that's
Asia
why
is
it's
the, I think
Because there are a lot of miners in Asia. That's
Yeah.
one of the big differences.
That's why
because the
it's
Bitcoin miner,
controversial.
the big whale.
Yeah, I think the idea mainly is like Western more visionary. I think sometimes Eastern projects, I would say sometimes more practical in terms of like how things work. Like they want to make it work and very fast. Western project will probably take longer. They lean towards like a safer model, more conservative sometimes when it comes to putting out a product to launch. When the Eastern teams are like, fuck it, I'll just put it out there. You want to try it out, like do your own research. I'm not gonna. So I think that's a different model. But we definitely see a lot of like visionary teams. So I think for Merlin Chain, we're betting on like finding out the innovation path with the Western teams to have like a long-term visionary and to experiment like lightly with all of the possibilities out there. But for the Eastern teams, we're like betting on them to have like more short-term, but like to have like immediate impact, have something going to market like immediately, and then eventually have these two teams both like together to have like a good development inside of the ecosystem.
Okay, so this leads to our last questions. If each speaker, can you give in one sentence highlight any new Bitcoin matter or specific Bitcoin project you are most bullish about for the rest of this year, for the next 6 months? In one sentence summary.
So new meta, I think it will be utility related because especially after the current cycle, I think we need sinks, and that is going to be the biggest driver now. People will be looking for utilities because then this is way more resilient and way less sensitive to the cycles.
Okay, Sunny.
Bring yield to Bitcoin.
Real yield. in
Real
Bitcoin?
yield to
Okay.
Bitcoin.
Yeah, and I just think just that entire piece of building out all of the infrastructure around the fungible token piece, be it AMs, staking, whatever it is, right? Like once we get that, we'll suddenly have a more viable ecosystem.
Jason.
Bitcoin DeFi, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. So
Ben, you
actually,
didn't talk about your game. What? I thought we were going to talk about Bitcoin gaming, but we're out of time.
Oh, it works with utility.
yeah, the bigger matter, and I would definitely go. Yeah, the BTC Fi. Our team is also building the Color Coin, the Atomic AS20 for staking. I think that is kind of the common consensus, BTC Fi. Okay, with that we conclude our session, and thank you for the audience. Thank you for our wonderful